Hey guys, Tom here, and today I'm bringing you my WWE Raw review for the 8th of August 2016. What did I think of this week's Monday Night Raw? I thought it was okay, but it did feel a little bit flat. They never really left the first gear. It just wasn't that impressive, and it just feels a bit meh. Now, I decided not to stay up and watch this week's Monday Night Raw. Since it was going to end at 4 AM, I decided not to stay up and watch it. And I'm pretty glad I did, because it wasn't that impressive. It wasn't worth staying up in the middle of the night for. It was okay, it was decent, but it just wasn't anything that exciting. So this definitely was the worst Raw since the WWE draft. It wasn't woeful, but it just wasn't good either. So I'm going to give this week's Raw a 7 out of 10. Not bad, not good, just kind of average. I thought the ending to Monday Night Raw this week was really strange. I waited 3 hours to see what Mick Foley and Daniel Bryan were going to say to each other. The conversation lasted like, it probably wasn't even 5 minutes. It felt like we were finally going to get a SmackDown versus Raw feel out of this whole draft. They kind of disagreed with each other. There was a bit of a rivalry going on there. Then Rusev came out. Then Cesaro came out. They both disappeared, and we got a match between the two. I mean, I waited 3 hours for that. I was expecting, a big SummerSlam match between SmackDown versus Raw. You know, one of them to turn heel on one another or beat each other up or something like that. We got nothing. We just got an impromptu title match to end the show. And we all know that Cesaro was never winning the title. And really, it was just to set up the Roman Reigns and Rusev match and the Sheamus and Cesaro match. For one, I'm not really that excited for Cesaro against Sheamus for the 3rd time. And Rusev against Roman Reigns is okay, but still Vince McMahon finds a way to end Monday Night Raw with Roman Reigns on top. It just felt like really out of place. This wasn't like how I felt Monday Night Raw was going to end this week, with like an impromptu title match between Rusev and Cesaro. It just felt a bit weird. The match was okay, it wasn't anything impressive. I waited 3 hours for the Bryan and Mick Foley thing, that definitely didn't deliver. And then Roman Reigns spears Rusev. It just felt a bit strange and not that great. So what was good about this week's Raw? Well, I actually really enjoyed the opening segment with Enzo and Cass and Chris Jericho and Kevin Owens. Chris Jericho is hilarious. Teaming him up with Kevin Owens is just going to be amazing. It's going to be even better. I like this opening segment. It did feel like they were kind of trying to rip off last week's segment, but it was still pretty good. It wasn't as good as last week, but it was still pretty decent, and it was absolutely hilarious. The best thing was when Kevin Owens squared up to Big Cass, and he was like, if I don't beat you up, Chris Jericho will, and it panned to Chris Jericho's face like this. It was hilarious. So then we got a match between Chris Jericho and Enzo Amore. The match itself was actually really good. It set up a really nice feud between Enzo and Cass and Chris Jericho and Kevin Owens. Now, I thought what was going to happen was Kevin Owens was going to distract Enzo Amore. Chris Jericho would then get the win. But that actually didn't happen, which I quite liked. It wasn't something I was expecting. So what did happen was Kevin Owens did distract Enzo Amore. Chris Jericho hit the code breaker, but instead of Chris Jericho win, Big Cass just got in the ring and booted Chris Jericho's head off, which I thought was great. I did not expect that to happen. So that match is going to happen at SummerSlam. Enzo and Cass against Chris Jericho and Kevin Owens. I am really excited to see that matchup. We also once again got another Braun Strowman jobber match, and I think this was my favourite jobber match out of all of them. I really liked how Byron Saxton interviewed him backstage. He just didn't say anything, he didn't know what to say. Braun Strowman looks like a beast, and I'm really impressed with him. And this match is pretty impressive. It wasn't too long, it was short, it was sweet, and it definitely got the job done. So Braun Strowman wins with about 2 moves. I absolutely loved how he picked him up at the end and just tossed him out the ring. I've never seen anything like that before. I think this guy could be really big. He's definitely got a great look about him. I'm pretty impressed. I didn't like him in the Wyatt family, but I think these squash matches are actually working for me. I thought he looked really good tonight. So for a second week in a row, we got Darren Young against Titus O'Neil again. Now, their first match wasn't great, but Titus O'Neil won with a roll-up with his hands on Darren Young's tights. So what happened here? Darren Young won with his hands on Titus O'Neil's tights. I mean, yeah, but this kind of really summed up this week's Raw. I mean, yeah, cool, but am I that bothered? Not really. I mean, they never really ever had a good match. They've already had a feud together about a year ago at Elimination Chamber, and that wasn't really that good either. So I don't know why they're really doing this feud again. Their matches aren't great. I'm not really that bothered. In what was probably the best match of the night, I really enjoyed it. Cesaro against Sheamus. This was probably Sheamus's best match of the year. He seems to get better and better as the weeks go on. This was a great match. So Cesaro won. I really liked the ending. It must have taken loads of practice to get that ending done, because basically Sheamus was in the corner, Cesaro went after him, the referee was in the middle, Sheamus ended up punching the referee by accident, it was all over the place. Basically Cesaro got the roll up in the end, but that was really well choreographed. I don't know how they did it. It worked perfectly, it looked great. Cesaro got the win, Sheamus is pissed. That sets up a match between Sheamus and Cesaro, which is good. The match might be quite good at SummerSlam, but I'm not really that invested in Sheamus' character, so I'm not sure if I'm that invested in this match at all. I really hope Cesaro wins. I did quite enjoy the ending, that was well worked, but at the end of the day, I'm not sure I'm that excited about their match at SummerSlam. What I think sums up this Raw perfectly is this whole Neville, Sin Cara, and the Dudley Boys match. So the commentary team said Neville has picked a special mystery partner. We're like, oh my god. Who's it going to be? Is it going to be somebody returning, somebody from NXT? And it ends up being Sin Cara. Sin Cara, which was just such an anticlimax. It kind of just summed up Raw this week. A bit of an anticlimax, a bit of a bore fest. Nobody really cares. A bit pointless, and this match was absolutely rubbish. I don't know what it is. I just think the Dudley Boys have gone off the boil a bit. I really have not been impressed with any of the Dudley Boys matches in the last few months. They haven't been relevant for ages. I don't remember the last time I was that entertained by a Dudley Boys match. I mean, this was just another bore fest. So I think one of the highlights of the night was Lana's face going into the cake. I really do think the WWE do kind of egg, and they kind of just go on and on about this whole Lana and Rusev married thing. Yes, we get it, but if you follow them on social media, you just can't escape it. It's on all the websites. They got married, yep, great. It's on all the Twitters, on all the Instagrams. I mean, Lana posts about it about 10 times every single day with photos, videos, and then they did a segment on Monday Night Raw. I mean, who cares that much? I mean, I know they do it because they're heel and they're supposed to annoy you, but it's just boring. Nobody cares. Now, for once, I was actually pretty happy that Roman Reigns came out, and I think he was pretty good here. I actually liked him on the microphone. I think he looked arrogant, he looked cocky, but he looked like a badass. He looked cool, he looked in his place. He looked comfortable. He looked a lot more comfortable than he has in recent months. He looked like he knew what he was doing. It broke down into a brawl. Basically, he pushed Rusev, who pushed Lana into the cake, which was great. I thought Roman Reigns was cool here, how he toasted to Lana and Rusev. That was all great. I think he's okay in this feud. I don't see anything wrong with it. The next match we got was Sasha Banks against Dana Brooke, a match which ended in about 1 minute. I was excited for this match. I was like, wow, high stakes. Whoever wins, Dana Brooke could be in Charlotte's corner, or she couldn't. And I was looking forward to this match. I was like, oh, this is going to be great. Who's going to win? Oh my god. It ends in about 1 minute. Sasha Banks wins. And that's that. So we actually got a really good promo from Seth Rollins on Finn Balor. I was impressed with this, but I also wasn't at the same time. It was good from Seth Rollins. He has improved so much on the microphone, but we didn't get Seth and Finn in the same ring like we did last week. I mean, the build hasn't actually been that good. They haven't stepped it up a gear. I mean, Finn Balor hasn't had a match for 2 weeks. He didn't have a match on this week's Raw. Seth Rollins cut a promo on Finn Balor. I'm sure Finn Balor was backstage, but they didn't interact with each other. What's all that about? We're 2 weeks away from SummerSlam, and it just felt a bit flat, and they didn't really try that hard. Now, I actually was pretty impressed with Finn Balor's video package backstage and how he was making this whole promo about the Demon and how the Demon is going to defeat Finn Balor at SummerSlam. I thought that was pretty clever, but also I felt it was a bit of a cop-out as well, and I felt like I really needed to see Seth and Finn once again interact with each other. We didn't really get that. Finally, I was really impressed with Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson's promo backstage. I absolutely loved Ring Post Titus. I thought that was absolutely brilliant. I mean, that was hilarious. I loved how they had the jackets on and even had Big E's balls in a cup. That was brilliant. This was great. This was hilarious. If you didn't like that, I don't know what will make you laugh, because that was great. They're just so funny. So yeah, once again, we got a really short match. Luke Gallows beating Kofi Kingston. It just felt like it really didn't get out the second gear. Bit flat, bit dull. This was the whole story tonight. I think they could really make a sort of gimmick out of this whole ring potatis thing. I mean, they could just do it to everybody. They have a match with somebody once they've won, instead of what Rusev does where he goes back to his opponent and hits with the accolade. They could just throw everybody into the ring post. I mean, they could actually get this and run with it. They could do loads of great stuff with this. But yeah, it just felt like they didn't really step it up tonight. It was a bit flat. I don't know what I feel. I just feel like it just didn't deliver. So what did you guys think about this week's Monday Night Raw? Are you with me or you're against me? Do you agree with me or did you think this was a good Monday Night Raw? I think we can definitely agree this wasn't as good as the first Raw after the draft and wasn't even as good as the second Raw after the draft last week. This was probably the worst Raw since the draft, but it definitely won't be the worst. We'll have much worse and we'll have much better. It's not going to be great every week. It's not going to be absolutely horrible. It was okay, a bit flat, but it wasn't horrific. It wasn't awful. I suppose that is a positive. Anyway, 7 out of 10 is the rating from me. Match of the night, Cesaro against Sheamus was absolutely great. There wasn't much else really to talk about. It wasn't that fantastic tonight. Anyway, thanks for watching. Take care. Spike your hair.